with these plants and just, nonstop researching it and all that. And I guess I figured the way I looked at it is I'm going to use these. I love these plants. I started not using caffeine, not drinking alcohol because I found different substances that worked way better with no side effects. I could drive after, like it's just say less, The only thing alcohol has on me is alcohol is everywhere. Blue Lotus isn't everywhere yet, unfortunately. But, having that intrigue from that into the world of like natural health and all this just culminated into me just crafting all these different herbal supplements. And I feel like the niche I was trying to hit with our brand is that sure, all these herbal supplements exist. I have to brew teas and all different methodologies, but I wanted with healing herbals do something where I'm taking these herbs and infusing it and making it into a product that is easy to consume. Because most of the market is, you get Blue Lotus tea or Blue Lotus loose leaf, and you have to smoke a pre roll or make a tea out of it. I just want like a gummy you could pop, a shot you could take, a drink, these type of things. There are some people doing this, but it's not as, popular as it should be. And especially the herbs like Kana, where no one is making products like this. I felt like it was a niche and a novelty that not only I wanted, but I wanted to present to friends and other people like that.
Totally. And right now, of course, there's this term that I don't really like, but it describes an emerging market, if you will, or a subsection of society, which is Cali sober, right? Or there's different
Mm.
variations of this. So like
Yes. Yeah.
people who want to party and they don't really want to drink a lot of alcohol. And now we're starting to see this with caffeine too. Like there's quite a few different mushroom coffees that have come out, and their pitch essentially is to cut down on your caffeine intake because for a lot of people you become addicted to caffeine, right? And
Yeah.
you end up drinking 7 coffees and it's just generally not very good for you, but it's normalized. So you just touched on two very large potential market segments, which is like caffeine in the morning and people looking for an instant pick me up that they can still function optimally with, and then alcohol to wind down. And I know there are quite a few companies, New Brew comes to mind, Ka comes to mind,
Yeah.
of course, what you're doing, that are essentially trying to disrupt this model and trying to present people with other options where you can go out, you
Exactly.
can feel really good, you're really sociable. So, can you talk a little bit about how you would employ these different herbs, be it in the morning as a pick me up and maybe swapping out for coffee, and then on the other end of that, on the tail end, how you would replace alcohol if it were up to you and your approach to partying and to having alert energy, optimal energy.
So honestly, I would love to soon. It's a transition period with healing herbals. Right now, we're just introducing two herbs, but over time, would love to start introducing all different herbs and mixtures, and that would even better perfect what you're saying, like a pick me up or an all alcohol alternative. But for right now, we have different extract styles, which I said have different alkaloids. So you might off the VU3 kind of feel like you had a drink and be more chill. So that could be a replacement there, and then the Blue Lotus as well. You could feel like you had a drink and you're unwinding, And I feel like Kana is very good with that too. I've talked to multiple people. It is almost like a social opener, So a lot of people do use Kana for social events and social experiences, and it helps them open up and unwind a little bit better. But all in all, this goes into the entheogenic emporium. There are some other herbs that like are really unique. Like I said, the African dream bean is one that comes to mind, and something else that's really cool too is that one, I like wild lettuce. It's another one that relaxes you. It can be used for alcohol substitution. Actually grows locally to like a lot of different areas. It's a very popular herb that grows by us, and if I see it in an environment that looks healthy enough, I'll rip a leaf off and lick a little bit of the sap that comes out of it, and I have very positive, pleasant experiences from that. So, um, hopefully as time goes on with education, teaching people about these things that are in our environment, you know, as well as education and teaching people to, produce and want different things other than alcohol and caffeine. I just look at it as like you have this one item, caffeine, and you take it every day. Like you said, you become addicted to it, and then you can't wake up without it, or you have caffeine headaches, and then if people just swap their supplements, they have a little caffeine this day, and then the next day they have ginseng, the day after that they have maca, the day after that they have kana. It'll be a different environment where people are, craving or relying on a certain thing, and I feel like they might be in a healthier state of mind as well.
Absolutely. So, as far as any potential drawbacks? It sounds like there, I'm a firm believer, as many people are, in the power of herbal supplements and in the power of tapping into these things. But are there any contraindications that we should be aware of? Or if you were, let's say, rolling these products out to a college freshman class and you were pitching them as, hey, maybe this is better than, in a way, for some of
Yeah.
the abuses that people put themselves through when they're partying. What are some potential drawbacks or contraindications that people should be aware of?
Yeah, so I'd say it first in the beginning, and I still stand to it. Is we have labels on all of our products about not mixing with excuse me, not mixing with SSRIs, because that can be a direct interaction. Serotonin syndrome and stuff like that. And there is like questionable talk about mixing with MDMA and stuff because of the interactions with serotonin as well. So aside from serotonin with Kana, most of these herbs there are not too many known interactions with, which is good. But it's still early on. People do have to do research and see what like something. One thing actually I'm thinking of could be interaction basis, like morning glory seeds, Hawaiian baby wood rose. Is a LSA precursor, and that is a vascular constrictor. So people who probably have like artery or blood thinning issues might want to avoid that. Um, as well as kava, I do really much enjoy it, but it does work on your kidney and liver a little bit. Excuse me, your liver a little bit, and people with liver issues should avoid that as well. And then not too much other than that I can think of. Obviously, kratom is habit forming and stuff like that. But I'm sure research will unveil a lot more as time goes. People should be careful with interactions. I would say that's probably the biggest worry. If you're prescribed on medication, talk to a doctor, stuff like that.
Totally. Now let's get a little sciencey here to the best
Yeah.
of your ability, which is certainly going to probably be above what I'm currently aware of. But what are some of the mechanism of action? What's the mechanism of action, in the sense that, like, what is canna? We'll start with canna doing to your brain, in a sense. You mentioned serotonin, right? It may be impacting your serotonergic system, in a sense, and
Yeah.
would love it if any information you can provide about what's going on in your brain and in your body when you consume canna.
So Kana is honestly a complex one because not only, like I said, working with the 5-HTP, Kana honestly works on multiple different receptors. It's been talked about working on dopamine receptors, cannabinoid receptors. It works as an SRI. So it works on different parts of the brain. There are, like I said, a lot of different alkaloids, and I think all these alkaloids play different keys in why that happens. I can't wait to see more research being covered with these different alkaloids and start seeing vendors have certain extract types. Like this is pure mesobromine and pure. Some of this does exist, but these molecules are very potent, so it's not very viable to play around with at the moment. Like you only need 10 to 30 milligrams as an active dose. But yeah. So sorry, I'm getting lost on track. Your question, I just had a brain fart. I apologize.
That's
You
all good. What are some of the other changes or the way that it's acting on the body and the brain?
Gotcha. So yeah, like I said, SRI, dopamine, cannabinoid receptors, as well as people refer like as GABA and stuff like that. So it plays. Oh, this is what I was going to go into. Actually, I'm glad I asked because I was going to say all these different parts of the brain, different ways you're doing extracts have different effects on you. And one thing I want to bring up, and I'm happy in transitioning into this now, is that for some reason there's like in the industry there's like loose leaf kana from back in the day, like 5 years ago. They used to have like really fire kana that would like used to be able to take a little bit of the loose leaf and chew a little bit of the leaf, how it's traditionally done in like tribes in Africa. And doing it this method would be one of the more unique ways to take kana for me back in the day. And a lot of people say the vendors have changed. A lot of the suppliers don't have this like really high alkaloid loose leaf anymore. So me and the team are trying to bring cultivation back, having these high mesobromine plants and chewing it because it would provide like a hypnotic. It was unlike any feeling or experience I've ever had before chewing the leaf. You would chew the leaf and you'd kind of feel like I'm sure you puff cannabis or have puffed or whatever. You dab ever or not too much with dabbing? I'm just going to reference the feeling of an experience with the dabbing to this loose leaf. But
I've dabbed, but
yeah,
that's a full send for me. I'm a big stoner, but even
okay.
dabbing is a bit much for me. But sure.
Gotcha. So, all right, I'll give an example of smoking a bong, or say you take a fat rip of a bong and you take the hit and you feel that head swirling feeling for a minute, like the THC's coming on. You know, the Kana will provide that similar feeling, that like head swirl, and I think that could have medicinal properties in the sense of like therapeutically, because with like a therapist or something, I feel it's almost like hypnotic. Like I feel like you kind of just swirl into your own mind, and it's like psychedelic of a feeling. And chewing the loose leaf of like really high and strong strength leaves can provide such a unique feeling that, like I said, I find it could be used in a therapeutic session to go deeper into your mind and have a conversation you normally wouldn't be able to have. So I know I transitioned
Interesting
from the
enough.
pharmacologicalness of it to this, but it just made me think that, so, but
No, the pharmacology is certainly not my strong suit. I'm just
yeah,
curious in the sense that I would like to be able to understand a little bit of what's happening. But
yeah,
these are
it's complex. Yeah,
ongoing trials right now. Like there's research
yeah,
that's being conducted. There's a publicly traded company, or at least there's a portfolio company for one of the venture funds I'm familiar with that's doing canna, and I think in particular they're marketing it as a aphrodisiac or as a male sexual performance
it'll
enhancer. Have
work
you
like that.
ever heard or
Yeah.
experienced anything along these lines? Because obviously that's
Oh,
a pretty appealing attribute right there.
oh, absolutely. Um, so getting into the Kana space was kind of difficult because it's like, what is Kana? Not many people know of it too much. So we work a lot on the forums, like such as Reddit and stuff like that, and we're very involved on there. And I was shocked to see how much that question and topic is brought up in there. I didn't realize how much of an experience that people have with that. Um, but yeah, it definitely is the case. Definitely does work, and can be an efficient way to get it going in the bedroom for sure.
Well, that's always going to be
Yeah,
in demand for sure. Yeah.
yeah, capitalize on that too. I mean, it's not opposed to that angle. I think there might be, maybe as you dabble with it, certain extracts that work better for that, and then as we find ones that work best for that, maybe start coming to market with something like that. Yeah, no, I appreciate that recommendation and putting me onto that, because it's true. People are looking for that, especially seeing on Reddit and all these communities so much. So so
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about the business side. So obviously, we're doing the podcast. That's a form of outreach and to be able to connect with an
sure.
audience. But what are some of the initiatives that you've undertaken to try to broaden the umbrella of people who are aware of what canna and the rest of the supplements you're working with are?
Yeah, so we started off with just like a friend who was starting events and his events, and we started growing and just the local community, telling people, having people try it. I would, give people like nasal, and we'd alcohol wipe it, and then like the next person would come, and people would come back and be like, "That was incredible. I want that," because it was like the nasal was such an experience that like you felt it. It wasn't like if you're sitting there able to like feel your own feelings, like you're noticing it. So having people just trying it and going from there was one of the first introductions to getting people to know about it. And then we started moving to like online work and just really getting involved with the community, the forums, and just touching base with people that are already into it, and just like showing them that like we have high quality stuff. We infuse into all these different products. We are big with our biodegradable and eco-friendly practices. Like, we're just doing what they're doing, but just trying to do like unique products. That's all. And so that's been the next thing. But we're finally transitioning to like trying to get into stores, which is something we're having a little more of a challenge with because people are not familiar with it and they're a little nervous to take something on going like that.